My name is Eura Adams Karim, and this is the Woezor TV Breakfast Cafe. This morning on the show, we're discussing overcoming the psychological trauma, particularly after the August 6 crash. And this time around, we're discussing that in relation to especially family, in relation to those of us Ghanaian citizens who, of course, were witnesses to what happened. We're discussing this in relation to friends who had some sort of close relations, to some of the victims. How would they be able to overcome the trauma that this particular incident has left on them? For a lot of us who have been involved in accidents, or know people who've been involved in accidents in one way or the other, if it's a car accident, sometimes where you're sitting in a car and you get some sort of a deja vu of that particular incident, you freak out a bit. I've been involved in an accident before, and whenever I use that particular stretch, I freak out. It dawns on me, it comes back to me, brings some kind of fear. And so I can imagine what close family would be going through. I can imagine what friends would be going through. I can imagine what generally the Ghanaian populace would be going through. And so in times like this, it's important that we seek collective healing. And so that's why we've assembled some of the finest, psychologists and mental health advocates to discuss how we can collectively overcome, the trauma that the August 6th helicopter crash came with. And so joining me to have this conversation this morning, two beautiful ladies, one gentleman in studio, Peter Yaro. He's a public mental health specialist with Basic Needs Ghana. He's here with me in studio. My very good friend Esinam Dra is a mental health advocate. She's here as well. And of course, clinical health psychologist with the Ghana Psychological Association, Ophelia Boma Azure. Azure is here with us in studio as well. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hope you're all doing good.
Yes.
I mean, from the perspective of psychologists, and I'll start with you, Ophelia. I mean, when you first received the news last week, Wednesday, how did you feel about it?
Personally, first of all, I'll say I'm happy to be here, and I always would love to spread awareness about mental health and how people can navigate their own mental health challenges. So yes, when I heard the news, first of all, I thought about people I have lost myself, and at the end of the day, I felt empathy for the families or the bereaved. So what I want to say is that news like this flies very quick, because these are prominent people or high-profile people that are known by many, that are seen as that gives hope to people, hope, love, and even leadership skills, and some may even see them as their mentors, right? And so when people like this pass on, it brings grief to people that know them or people that love them. And at the end of the day, everyone mourns, like everyone feels the pain or the hurt and the loss of such people.
Absolutely. Yaro?
Yeah, thank you. As my sister said, very shocking news, as we all know. But let me use this platform to also convey our deepest condolences to the President and government of the Republic of Ghana, and to the families that are bearing this big emotional burden. We are grieving as a nation, but it's probably worse for the immediate families. And this is the time we all should be there with them in spirit and praying for acceptance of this unfortunate situation. Obviously, it changed the mood of the country, and we are still coming to terms with it. Not that we haven't seen accidents of people in such numbers. We have seen boat disasters of several people. We have seen road accidents, and not long ago, 16 people perished after going through a religious or spiritual program. But the proportion of this is what my sister talked about. I mean, they are people who a lot of people looked up to, people who have some attachment to them, even if it was just through the television. There are people who have never met them face to face, but they felt it. And that is the proportion of grief and loss that has seeped through the country, right from the government to the ordinary citizen who has felt that a big part of this country is in grief. The loss of potential that these people would have contributed to national development, particularly in the president's or the current government's efforts to bring Ghana back to a certain footing for accelerated growth and development. They were key parts in this agenda. And so it is justifiable that we should have this sense of loss and accept, really be allowed for us to go through the motion of grieving our loss, to accepting it and moving on in life.
Absolutely. That's a very interesting and profound take as well. I'll come to you, Esinam. Let me get your first bite on how you also received the news.
Okay, so I was at home when the news was breaking, and I just did not know how to comprehend everything. I was thinking about the mental health aspect, because we all have mental health. So I knew that this news was going to affect all of us one way or another. And grief is a complex issue. It can be messy and very difficult to navigate, because you are grieving a lot of things. You are grieving the future you could have had with the person who is gone. You are grieving the moments you could spend with them. If you had routines with this person, you can't do them with them anymore. You are grieving their absence. And you know, society has a way of putting timelines on how you should grieve, when you should grieve. So I was just greatly sad. I was very, very sad about how this is going to affect all of us. Personally, last week I became more anxious when I was going out, because I realized, wow, it looks like certain ordinary things are actually not like that anymore, and we should be more thankful every day, no matter what happens in our daily lives. So with the anxiety that I was facing, I had to personally sit down, take my time, and understand that those we have lost, they were gifts to us. So I should not allow that anxiety to be a burden on me.
Interesting. So let's come straight into the very key part of the conversation now, and I'll start with you, Yaro. In instances like this, when we talk about psychological trauma, as far as accidents are concerned, what really are we referring to?
In many ways, it is the sum total of a sense of shock, a sense of helplessness, a sense of questions like, why me? As you heard about those profound questions the Chief of Staff asked, why them, why now, and how in this way to go, These are questions that would run through you. Then you think very far about what the consequences of that is now and in the future. How you think whether you have played a role in it or not. All these things encapsulate to give you a certain traumatic experience, which negatively affect your emotional and psychological well-being. So you could take it from, couldn't I have prevented it? You could take it from, couldn't they have known and stopped? You could take it from, but why should it be affecting me in person? So all those things give you a certain weight and alter your mood, alter your thoughts processes, alter your interactions with people, and that is why you now feel that it's a trauma. Trauma, as we all know, even if you have a very gushing wound, it's traumatic.
Okay, yeah.
You know, so it's the same, that you are getting a deep cut in your emotion and sense of mental and psychological stability. So that makes it a very traumatic experience or weight on you for that matter.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's why we do hear that, oh, people are dealing with a traumatic situation. And we have to accept it. It is part of us as humans, as people, social beings, that this is bound to happen. How we deal with it also depends on our thresholds. And as my sister Esinam was saying, if you have experienced this and you hear it, and even your very good self, Eura, you talk about, if you go that road that you once had an accident, a lot of things come back to you.
Yeah.
So even if you are not connected and you have heard this, a number of things play back to you. From it could have been me to I have gone through it before. Is this unfortunate thing going to revisit me again? And I believe the nation is traumatized because I believe there are people who would have canceled flights that I wouldn't fly. People would have said I won't go on the road. You know, so that is the collective trauma we as Ghanaians and citizens are going through, and we have to live with it, go through this. We all know it's a whole cycle to cope with, from grieving to even starting with denying, no, it can't be true. And that's why people say, oh no, that's what comes first. No, it's not. How could this be? To saying that, okay, so this is what has happened. How do I deal with it? You think about the people who rally around you for the moments that it has happened, to when you have found a place of rest for them and you are left on your own to deal with.
Absolutely.
And then saying, well, I have to move on. This is not the end of the world. I don't want it this way, but I have to accept and move on. Yeah.
Let me come to Ophelia. I mean, let's jump into specifics. I mean, what kind of trauma is one likely to experience? You know, I mean, what kind of psychological trauma, basically, is one likely to experience as a result of, you know, this crash that's happened? I mean, although all of us seated here and everybody probably watching us now, I mean, everybody watching us now, it's not even a probability. Everybody watching us now, you know, is not a victim. You know, as far as the accident is concerned, so that's, oh, he was part of the accident, but he survived, or everybody who was in the plane, you know, of course, lost their lives. But for those of us, you know, on the wings, those of us on the flanks, those of us who witnessed, you know, that tragic incident, what kind of trauma, you know, are we likely to experience across the different levels? Because I know that it would most likely differ, you know, from person to person.
Yes. So initially, I should have made this known to the viewers, like viewers' discretion for us talking about this.
Okay, yeah.
It may trigger them again to feel the pain of losing, their loved ones. But a lot of times people go through post-traumatic stress disorders, all right? And initially, like he mentioned, there may be the denial phase and anger. People may have the shock of their life, and they may experience numbness, flashbacks, nightmares, or dreams about the incident, especially the immediate family, right? What happens in psychological trauma is that the brain responsible for fear, emotional processing, memory, is normally either hyperactive or less reactive. It means that at that moment the person cannot function typically like themselves, because in psychology there's nothing like normal, because who defines normality? Yeah, but then they may not be of them typical self because something has happened. It has changed their emotional response to life, to even reality. And so people may also go through depression, like where they may refuse to eat or overeat. Some may experience insomnia or even sleep more. There are some people who sleep more when they are traumatized or when they are going through depression. They may also ask questions about the existence of life, like what is life all about, and they may also experience the difficulty of moving on. And for people who find it very difficult to move on per time, will experience what we call the prolonged grief disorder, where after many months or even years they still find it difficult to move on in life without the person. So I want the bereaved families to know that they may be experiencing an unusual signs and symptoms, like things they may not know how to deal with or understand. It's very normal, and these emotions are normal or typical human reactions when something traumatic like this happens. And so they should just give it time and learn to reflect on certain things, rather than placing judgment on themselves or being very hard on themselves, or even thinking that it's their fault. I'm sorry to mention this, but I'm sure the president by now is feeling guilty. There's what we call the survival guilt, where those who were supposed to be part of the incident survived, and so they are left with questions like, it should have been me, and I put this person there, and now look at what has happened. So because the president, he's human, he has emotions, and he has conscience as well, and they go through this. I just want to assure him that it's a typical human reaction when something like this happens. And so with post-traumatic stress disorder, there should always be a counselor or clinical psychologist present for the families that are bereaving, to help them cope with what has happened or to manage with it better. Yeah.
Interesting. Let me come to you, Esinam. Let's jump into practical steps. What practical steps really can all of us who are witnesses to this particular incident, to those of us who are feeling guilty, some way about the incident, who think that we could have done something differently, should have done, what practical steps can we take to manage, our grief, and also to ensure that what's happening now does not lead to long-term, mental health issues for us?
Ophelia is the expert on that, but personally, like she shared, the first thing you have to do is seek professional help. Seeking professional help does not mean you are weak or something is wrong with you. Like she explained, it's a normal human reaction. And when it comes to grief, like I said, it's a complex issue. We have grief counseling. So if you need to go for grief counseling, it's very important that you do that. And also, if you know that watching certain things on TV or social media may be triggering for you, maybe you should reduce it or avoid it. And this is where the media also comes in. I would like to appeal to them to be more media sensitive and not show graphic, visuals, gory images that people can watch and then it will re-trigger them. That's why Ophelia mentioned earlier that they have to give clear warnings that this video, this picture you're about to watch may be triggering, and the person can quickly avoid that. And also I would also like to appeal to people not to engage in social media speculation or keyboard wars, that kind of thing, because sometimes you are trying to defend the bereaved person and your emotions get tangled up in the whole thing, and at the end of the day you now feel this burden to defend the person that is gone, or people that are associated with the person. I have 2 friends who are connected to 2 of the bereaved people, and it hasn't been easy for them to just sit down and watch as people are saying things online which looks like they are trolling the bereaved people. Those who have been doing that, I think that if you don't have facts, just try and keep quiet and don't cause any more pain or damage to what they are already feeling. And finally, I would like to say that it's very important that when it comes to managing your emotions, or like know your limits, know when, okay, it's too much for me, I need to just disconnect, know when, like I said, to seek professional help. And I really wish that the government had a trauma response team at this moment for all the families, and even, I'm not saying it will happen, but for future disasters, because when you have a trauma response team, immediately the issue happens, psychologists, counselors, they are assigned to all the people connected to the issue. It happened in America when in the Twin Towers crash. Even service dogs were deployed, therapy dogs, so that people, even the workers that were there helping with the rebels, could just, as you are working, if you need some time to just disconnect because of the weight of the burden, you can just, maybe interact with the dog so that it can release some stress from you. So I think it's very important. Maybe Ophelia would like to add to that.
Let me take Yaro from some tidbits from Yaro as well.
Yeah, I entirely agree with Esinam and Ophelia. These kinds of support are needed. I think our sociocultural context also give some support as people rally around, as families or as friends or as close neighbors. It is in us, our society, that when somebody suffers this kind of calamity, people rally around. You go to the funeral house and it's very busy. It is to ensure that the person is not left on his or her own for whatever reason, especially in situations where there's likely to be self-harm. To say, as Esinam said, what is the use of this life, and may attempt something. But once neighbors, friends, families, extended family rally around, there is some comfort around you for the period up to when the person is laid to rest. And even after that, you still get a good level of relatives, close friends, dropping by, being around, maybe sisters, brothers of siblings of the disease, may even sleep over in the house for quite a good number of days just to keep people in company. Absolutely. But there's always an end to it. You'll still be left alone. And at that moment, you need these kinds of professionals, Ophelia and the likes, as Nam and other professionals who have had lived experiences and can share with you. But there's also the growing trend of other support systems, self-help groups, people that have gone through it and have organized themselves to be around, not for, with all due apologies, widows or widowers of this kind of experience. People have clubs. They decide to join clubs, whether they are sports clubs, professional clubs, or charities that let them reach out and keep them busy so that there is no vacuum for you to sit and be alone. Whatever can keep you occupied so that there is little chance for you to sit and think or even grieve or whatever of the person. So all these kind of support networks are needed. We have our religious groupings. I think everybody now, there are a few people in Ghana who don't belong to a religious group, Christian, Muslim, or whatever. They are good support systems for people within the church. You have the women's groups, the youth groups, whatever groups, other charity groups that we can take note of. If there are working persons among them, the work settings are equally good places where superiors and colleagues can be of support. Your work schedule can be rearranged in a way that can allow you to feel more comfortable, to cope and move on and deliver in life. So these are all ways from professional support to maximizing our social networks, right from family, friends, school groups, whatever, close friends, and the rest to come around and to use for your own recovery and to move on in life. Because if this was your best friend you used to move around, probably now the club you belong to can give you that kind of support, you know. Yeah, so.
Interesting. Ophelia, you want to jump on that as well? Practical steps?
Okay, yeah. So with high-profile people like this, they will need private time and private space to mourn.
Okay.
Because that's what we call the grief at display. Because they are high-profile people, there's a lot of social pressure on them. At the same time, they'll be finding it difficult to process their own pain and understand what's even going on. So for people like that, they need the private space to mourn healthily and positively. Also, people that come to visit them, I want to caution you to be mindful of your words. You should be compassionate, respectful, and to observe or mourn with dignity, because these are people who have served the nation. So when you go to visit the deceased family, you stop asking very intrusive questions or making requests or demands that at the moment is not necessary. Sometimes we can observe, or as a supportive friend or family member, by just being quiet or silence. The void in there doesn't mean that there is lack of something. It just means you need to observe this moment. So a moment of silence throughout your visit will be okay. And the visit can even be brief. You can just show your face, hold the person's hand, hug the person, and then off you go. And limit phone calls, right? Because imagine everyone trying to call them to check on them. You can send a text or whatever that it is you may want to, because when this is past, they may go back to their messages and calls to reply to all of that. Lastly, I would also like to say that people should stop commenting and making unverified facts about what has happened. We need to be very cautious with the things we put online. Behind every headline or post or what's on your mind is a grieving family, a grieving daughter or spouse, or a relative, right? It can affect and even cause what we call the secondary trauma, that years or months after this, they may chance upon this on the social media. And you know, whatever you put on the social media never dies. There's always a way people get to see it. And so to avoid secondary trauma, we need to reduce our content creation and the wannabe bloggers and all of these controversies out there. It's not helping. So people really need to be careful. And lastly, what I'll say is, for the bereaved family, you will need to see someone you trust to speak with. I always recommend 5 trusted adults, especially for high profile people. 5 trusted adults that you can express these emotions. I'm saying this because I know men do not express their emotions. They can suppress certain things for so long. I remember once in my profession, I met a pastor who lost a wife, and because the family members were there, I had to break the message to them. And when I told them the wife had passed and everything, they started praying. There's always a thin line between psychology and spirituality, and so the man was trying to keep up the pain, and so I excused him from the family members, and I took him to a different room, and I encouraged him to let it out. I just said, this is a safe space for you, let it out. And oh my goodness, the man started crying.
Wow.
Like, you could see him trembling and shaking, and you can tell how dangerous it was, like, to be very formal even while grieving. Like, we have set some stereotypes or some structure or principle, I don't even know what that term is, to qualify how people should behave based on their gender or ethnicity or backgrounds. Like, they have to be in a certain position to grieve. And I'm saying this because I have experienced this man breaking down when he had the safe space to let out the emotions, because suppressing your emotions can come out someday very badly. It can come with rejection, anger, unprocessed thoughts and feelings and emotions. And so I pass on this message to the bereaved family, that find time and mourn. Like, let out the emotion, speak to someone, tell someone that you trust, at least 5 trusted people within your circle. Take time off work, because I know that some people will still like to be going to work. If you are a manager of your company and someone loses a loved one, make sure that you give them bereavement leave. Let them stick to it, because I know I've worked at 37 military hospital, and a lot of soldiers who may have lost 1 or 2 people will still want to come to work. Like, they want to show up, they want to feel like I have it all together. And so you have to be very, like, careful and mindful of your employees. Give them the leave they need to go and process whatever that it is, and help them. You can even assign to them a psychologist to take them through whatever that's going on. And I always advocate that every workplace should have an in-house psychologist. Even if the psychologist is not based in the office, the psychologist can come and go, depending if there's grief. If there are moments of grief, the psychologist can come and educate people, help the person or whoever is grieving to cope better, to understand what this is, so that they can navigate through this. Yeah, thank you.
Interesting. I'll come to you, Yaro, and then of course I come to Estinam, and then I'll end on you.
Okay.
For, of course, our final takes. And so, what are, for those who are unable to get access to professional help, I realize you've already touched on quite a number of things that they can do. I'm also glad that you've talked about what collectively we all can do, to show some level of support and solidarity for these people. But let's take concluding remarks. What would be your concluding remarks to start with? And then maybe if you can also take cognizance of the fact that we still have a few challenges, of course, in our country when it comes to our mental health delivery and all of that. So maybe you can draw a little bit on that while concluding for us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eura. And to say that I think as a government and people, first and all to the president and government of Ghana, that I would say the right knobs have been touched. The best of arrangements have been made. A 3-day mourning, which Ophelia just talked about. We should be allowed to cry as much as we want, and to show our grief in the best way that we can, so that we can cope with an extended period to have a national closure to it. I think it was a very good arrangement, particularly starting from the laying of the flowers. Has given opportunity to everybody to come show his or her love as a citizen to these fallen heroes, to give it, according them, the kind of burial that they would get as, and I believe they would be recognized as icons. Some kind of memorial will be done in their honor. So we would like to say thank you to the president and the people, his government with him, and indeed all other citizens and media entities like your good selves that have really given them the honor that they deserve, dedicating all this time, airtime and the rest to allow us discuss, and even probably previous panelists to touch on this as part of the whole should I call it episode, event that has befallen us. Now what it is telling us, and maybe if I can make another point before I get to that, is that with all due apologies to families and any other person connected, but if in Ghana we are people of faith, and some of us are Christians living after the life and experience of Jesus Christ, or you are a Mohammedan and the rest, you see that the sacrifice of Jesus brought salvation to the world. I would say that the sacrifice of these fallen countrymen is bringing some unity, not some unity, real unity to the country. That before this, we probably were tearing each other apart and were probably going to extremes. And this priceless sacrifice of these 8 is telling us that, hey, be careful, don't get to the brink. Come back to the center. Let's rally around and see how we uplift our country, how we unite as a people. And this was exemplified at all quarters, right from parliament to political parties to religious groups to corporate bodies to the diplomatic corps to civil society, that there is just one Ghana for us, and we shouldn't let these fallen heroes' sacrifice go in vain. And so it is, as you are hearing people say, this should be the clarion call for us to say what they went to perform, try to find means to reduce the devastation of the environment and to eliminate illegal and irresponsible mining, should not continue. We shouldn't let this sacrifice go in vain. I think we have all heard these kinds of calls. So rallying us as a people to a sense of purpose, to a sense of oneness, to forge ahead under the leadership of the president and his government, is what this priceless sacrifice is drawing us to. And I think I want to make that point. And now looking ahead as a country, I think Ophelia and Esinam have both mentioned that we should have response systems really set up to address these. We do not pray that this would repeat, but they say to be forearmed is to be forewarned, or whichever way around. That we have been forewarned. If we didn't, we should now arm ourselves to respond adequately. It may not be in this form but we have experienced disasters. Think about the Akosombo Dam spillage and what people went through.
June 3rd.
Think about June 3rd.
Yeah, the stadium.
The stadium disaster. Think about the explosion at Circle.
Yeah.
And what happened.
Yeah.
This is telling us that we need to have ready response teams, particularly to deal with psychological burdens and emotional burdens that people are going to go through. And that is why investing in our mental health system and in general our healthcare system for emergency response, trauma clinics or centers, early response teams, rescue and whatever teams as widely as possible should be pursued. And for mental health, that we really deal with investing in workforce, investing in facilities, investing in medicines, not just the psychotropics, but the professional hands that provide talking therapies, cognitive behavior support professionals like Ophelia, lived experience experts like SNM, for them to be there when it matters.
Absolutely.
And this is one other call on us as a people, but particularly on our leaders who we have entrusted the resources of this country to ensure that investments in mental health as an integrated, enhanced health system of the country need to be pursued and pursued more vigorously than is the case.
Interesting. Right, SNM.
I would just like to say that for people who are experts and can talk about grief, they should use social media to talk more about it, just like the way some people online are using their platforms to spread negativity. Experts, professional experts, lived experience experts can use these platforms to actually push positive messages out there. Maybe people who have gone through grief and have overcome can also share their stories. It will go on to encourage and inspire people. And for the media, I would wish that they will be trained more on sensitivity and language that humanizes the victims, because language is very important. How you say certain things about the bereaved can really make people feel shattered. So we should work on that and not bombard cameras in people's faces. I saw that at the Reed Lane ceremony, journalists were still, in that difficult moment, some journalists were still trying to get some high-profile people to speak. Some of them declined, but some were still pushing on. You should know when someone says no and just respectfully disconnect from the person. It goes a long way to help them, because sometimes with grief, you just don't know what to say. And when you don't know what to say, sometimes people interpret it that you don't care. And even with the state funeral that is coming on, I know some Ghanaians will say, oh, why isn't the widow crying? Why isn't this person crying? Some people, how they deal with their grief is they don't cry. They are just quiet. They will just deflect and use other modes to express their grief. So as a nation, let's just be very empathetic towards everybody involved in the situation. Don't be hard on anyone. Thank you.
All right, don't be hard on anyone. Let me take your final words, Ophelia.
Okay, so my final words, anyone can lose a loved one, okay? And losing a loved one doesn't mean you are being punished by God or the universe. Sometimes these are uncalled situations that as human beings we don't understand. However, in time past, human beings have always loved the love of knowledge, right? To know why things happen, to find answers why things happen. And the more we worry in finding answers, the more we may go through or be at the risk of mental health deterioration. What I would say is that this is a moment for reflection. This is a moment to allow things be, to just go through it and understand that this is life, this is the reality. You may want to disassociate from it. You may want to find answers by calling people, pastors, soothsayers, and everything. It actually messes the whole grieving processes. And so I would say that I am sorry, and I can feel your pain, and I understand that this is a very hard time for you. And to the bereaved family, please and please be mindful of your mental health, even though it may feel impossible to, but it is possible. That's why I mentioned about safe space and private time to grieve well. For the president and his staff and all of that, I want to commend him for the structures he's putting in place for the bereaved or the fallen soldiers, because it goes a whole way to say that our president is mindful of mental health. Like, he understands and he cares for his people. And so if he's going all his way to create structures for national mourning, support fund, and all of this, it means that as citizens we should also be mindful of our mental health when the time calls for us to seek the help of a professional. We should. I know there's stigma, but you need it, and we are escalating stigma every day by putting on recovery stories. Like SNM here has a recovery story. She's a lived experience, and so it is possible to recover from any mental health disorder or illnesses. And so this is what I have to tell the public and the bereaved families.
All right, thank you very much. So viewers, you had Ophelia, you had Yaro, and you had Esinam talking to us about overcoming the psychological trauma of the August 6th crash, and a very interesting conversation there. I hope that you take some cues from it.